Hello. Well, the star of the show today is this rather magnificent oak tree that you can see just over my shoulder there. I'm out near Stonehouse, just between what was Standish Hospital and Standish Park Estate, and I spotted this tree a while ago, and then I became aware that the Woodland Trust were looking for people to survey Britain's ancient trees and to submit information on their website for a national inventory of ancient trees. So we just started doing that, me and the boys, and this is the first tree that we had successfully submitted onto the inventory. We came out a few weeks ago, and admiring this tree and spending a bit of time with it really got me to thinking a bit about these remarkable trees. So if we look at the tree a bit more closely, you can see it's obviously pretty old. We've measured it around its middle, and at 5.5 metres, that probably means it's over 200 years old, and it's been pollarded at some point, which actually means it may well survive slightly longer than other oaks that are allowed to just grow straight up and can be more susceptible to being knocked over. One of the things that I found really remarkable about this tree and others like it is the fact that it is effectively like a whole planet on its own. It's an ecosystem. There are reported to be 2,300 different species of living things that can live on an oak tree. And the older the tree gets, the more likely it is that it will be nearer that number. And there are 326 species that are purely reliant on oak trees, so they can only survive because of oak trees, which is pretty amazing. We'll take a closer look in a minute, but all of the things you can imagine in terms of pollinators, birds, badgers, squirrels, mice, not to mention fungi and lichen, etc. And it won't surprise you to know probably that it's the birds that first enabled me to really start thinking about these when I read about jays, the ubiquitous jay, a bird that one of my colleagues once thought was a parrot escaped from a local zoo when we saw one near our office. Amazing array of colours of kind of pinks and browns and blues and blacks and whites, but they are the most prolific propagators of oak trees. They could probably plant thousands in a lifetime, and can carry a good handful of acorns in their crop. You see them pecking around collecting up, and then they take a group of acorns and they spit them back out and plant them all over the place, and that's probably why we've got the number of oak trees that we do have, thanks to the very amazing jay. So we're in a bit closer to the tree now. I'm no expert and I'm not going to pretend to be, but even I can see there's quite a bit of interesting life about, and for me, I don't know how well you can see it on the video, but I'm looking up at two substantial holes in the dead wood of this oak tree, and I know, I'm 99% confident the hole on the right there is a tawny owl living there, and the reason we know that is because we found the owl pellets, which are the remains of mice. There are some on the ground, and I've broken them up, but I'm not going to show them to you because you might be eating your breakfast. But the remains of mice and all manner of small rodents that the owl has been living off, and they regurgitate them and spit them out from their nest, and there are a good number around on the ground under this tree, so I'm pretty confident it's that hole that the tawny owl is living in. I've looked around on the ground, and there aren't really any acorns, which I think is probably because the jay has been doing its work all winter. There are a good number of oak apples, which is the egg of the bull wasp. You can see a few there I've picked up. There's clearly a rabbit that lives here as well, which is interesting, because I think on the other side of the tree at some point there may also have been a fox, but probably not at the same time. And one particular curiosity of this tree is that it has adopted a whole other tree, and I can't think of where I've seen that before, a holly tree growing out of the middle of an oak tree, which is quite remarkable. And if you look on the Woodland Trust website about this particular tree, that is a particular point of interest because you don't see it every day. You might be wondering, when's he ever going to stop talking about birds? In fact, that is something quite a few of my friends have said to me at many points over the years, and start to relate this back to our spiritual practice. And as I was reading up and researching on what I might say in this film, I was reminded that the Bible starts and ends with a tree, the tree of life, that appears both in Genesis and in Revelation. And of course, trees are the most frequently occurring living thing, other than people, most frequently occurring living thing referred to in all of Scripture. And the tree of life is seen as symbolic of our relationship with God in Genesis. After the fall, we're barred from going anywhere near it. And the very end of the book of Revelation, the last book of the Bible, we hear about that connection being restored. And I've often thought over the last few years, a couple of decades probably actually, now I come to think of it, that Christian theology and spiritual practice, we've lost a lot of our understanding of our relationship with creation. And a theologian that I admire and generally agree with a lot, I heard him once say that that Scripture is the story of God, his people, and a quest for justice. And I suppose for me, thinking about that tree of life and what it represents, and thinking about this tree I'm sat next to now and its sort of complex ecosystem of interdependence and mutuality and beneficence between all the different things that live here. For me, I wonder if the story is actually a bit more complex, about recognising that we are actually part of creation, and the story is the relationship between creation and the divine, with us as an integral part of that, and then about the reconciliation of just and beneficial relationships between all of its parts, creation and the divine.